Coming up next month, just a couple of weeks away, Chorus Niagara is presenting Sound Mind on May 6th. Chorus Niagara's artistic director, conductor, and all-around good guy, Robert Cooper, is joining me right now. How are you doing today, Robert?
Very well, thank you. Happy Easter Monday.
Yeah, happy Easter Monday. I'm delighted to have you here joining us on the air. We're a matter of weeks away from the next big Chorus Niagara presentation. Can you tell us a little bit about Sound Mind coming to the FirstOntario Performing Arts Centre on May 6th?
Yes, well, it's a program about a topic that is hot on the sort of current content in today's life in Canada. You know, 1 in 5 people in Canada live with some issue of mental illness, and this program is focused on the whole idea and concept of mental wellness. I've always felt in my life that choral music, since it deals with words and ideas and feelings, you know, is the right art form for actually trying to convey and contextualize a program about topics that are relevant, topics that are important in our lives. So I put together this program called Sound Mind, which takes us on a bit of a musical journey about the thoughts and feelings of people who are what we would say neurodiverse.
Interesting idea of contextualizing mental health in a way different than just having in a way you're having a conversation, but not with words.
Exactly. We're having it with music, and so many composers have set pieces which they feel they're trying to express ideas that they've even experienced in their own life. And of course, the other thing is, I think we found out, in particular during COVID, you know, that choral singing has a very strong therapeutic benefit for people. And I certainly discovered that during COVID, and I had many rehearsals for over a year online through Zoom. It was something that really provided people with a sense of support and mental wellness and emotional engagement throughout this period of time. So this program is focused around one work in particular, but many other small works. But the major work is ironically called Perfectly Mad. And it's a work by a Canadian composer who writes very beautiful dramatic and lyric pieces, and it's a work which is multi-media. We're using the screen, there's lots of projections, has a very well-known actor, 2 people who went to the Shaw Festival in Stratford, and Benedict Campbell, soloists, chamber orchestra, and the chorus. And it's a work about William Blake. Now, many people may not know about William Blake, and maybe they don't even care about William Blake. But it's about this mad genius, this person of great intellect during the 18th century who was one of the great poets, writers, and a graphic designer, all these crazy drawings that you can see when you look up. He was a gentleman who was bipolar. And the composer has created this really magnificent arc of a choral drama, which is based on the words of William Blake and helps us understand the really dramatic fluctuations that the mind went through as he created his many works of genius. And at the time, a particular critic of the time called him perfectly mad. Not just mad, but perfectly mad, which means that there was a genius to this person. And that is the work which I think is the focal point of the program, around which I have some other scores. One was commissioned by a young Canadian female composer who's living in the States now, just graduated from Yale University. A composer by the name of Anna Pitgorna, who's written a work for us about some of the conditions she's experienced being bipolar in a very sort of whimsical choral piece, which she has called A Charge in the Air. Another work is by an American composer called Please Stay, and this one, I have to say, slays the chorus every time we rehearse it, which is about the endeavor to protect people from suicide. So, you know, it sounds like this must be a very sad program, but actually I think it's very uplifting, it's very meaningful, it's very timely. We even have some work by Dolly Parton and about Louis Armstrong, What a Wonderful World. And I'm really pleased to say that the program is being supported and given great patronage by Pastone Mental Health as well as the CMHA Niagara. So we have people who understand what's going on, they understand the benefit of this program, and I think that people who come to the PAC, the Partridge Hall, on the 6th of May will be really receiving something very meaningful and touching, provocative, and passionate.
It sounds like really quite the range of ideas and artistic concepts that are in there, and so I'm just going to kind of pull from some of the things that you've shared, and you talked in great length about Perfectly Mad and William Blake, and so can you talk about the composers behind the stories a little bit, and the expertise or even the knowledge of their craft that they bring to helping to weave these stories together?
Well, first of all, going back to Anna Pitgorna, as I said, she's a young contemporary woman composer, and she actually is bipolar, and she has a text written by her sister and tells about the experiences she and her family have experienced when she's gone through these enormous fluctuations of mind, and she knows when it's coming, and that's why she's called the piece Charge in the Air. She can actually have this sensation, like an aura, that something is happening to her over which she has no ability to stop it, and takes us on this musical journey with a bunch of talking in the chorus and the piano, and then little interspersed moments of singing, but it builds up to a great sense of tension. The other work by Jake Runestad called Please Stay actually incorporates the choristers reading text from people who have actually written to a special website in the States with their feelings about needing help when they're on that verge of committing suicide, but they are saved by the support they get. Allan Bevan is a very interesting Canadian composer. He is the composer of Perfectly Mad. He's from Ontario originally, but he lives right now in Edmonton. I've worked with other major works that Allan has written because I know he knows how to write a work that's 35, 40 minutes long with a sense of dramatic arc and musical engagement and excitement. And he knows how to bring in soloists and narrator, and he's been fascinated for years with William Blake. He told me several years ago they wanted to do this, and I said, well, hold that thought, Allan. Let's work on this other project. But he kept coming back, and this year will be the premiere of this piece, Perfectly Mad, and the choir is really enjoying it. They have to really turn on a dime again because of the huge emotional fluctuation that people have when they are having some kind of psychotic moment. At the same time, though, there's music of great heart-rending effect, and there are times where the choruses are quite moved. I've had some singers during rehearsal have to walk out just because they have to, gather their strength, and we will warn people beforehand, a message in the program, that if there are any triggers, these are places they can go to, and we'll also have people there. But as I said, this is not a program which is meant to disturb people, but rather to enlighten and to lift up people's spirits.
I appreciate you, first off, mentioning that there will be the appropriate supports for people that may struggle with some of the content.
Absolutely.
I don't want to imply that music itself has healing powers, in that if you're working with mental health barriers, I encourage you to get help from professionals. But more, my question is along the lines of, there is something about seeing that you're not alone and hearing that story in the form of art that I hope will help people. Have you seen that before in your craft and in the work that you've done?
All the time in music. I deal with amateur musicians. I've dealt with amateur musicians for 40 years, and the number of times I receive emails from people after a particular rehearsal telling me how meaningful it was. Even this past weekend, I have to tell you, I was sending out emails to the choir, both choirs, with little snippets of a performance they just gave, because they don't often get to hear what they've done, and they did such a spectacular job in the last performance. And many of them would write back and say how meaningful it was on this particular Easter weekend to have that kind of confirmation and validation. Music is really a healing influence. They talk about dementia, and the one thing about dementia is that the musical capacity remains with people. I've had my choirs go out and sing in seniors' homes, and there'll be people who are sitting listening to us who are really not really connecting, and then all of a sudden we'll start singing a piece, and I remember standing beside this elderly gentleman and him tapping his fingers on the edge of his wheelchair as we were singing and starting to smile. Music connects to the very inner being of an individual.
That's such a powerful point to share. I'd like to talk a little bit about Chorus Niagara, and you are the artistic director of Chorus Niagara, composer, and just can you talk a little bit about Chorus Niagara itself?
Well, I've been doing Chorus Niagara for a little over 30 years, if you can believe it. I live in Toronto, but I schlepped down the QEW for several years now, and it is an organization which has grown in stature and in size over the years. And, of course, with the opening of the PAC, it was a great boon to our ability to even professionalize ourselves even more. We have a very fine children's choir component of 5 different children's choirs. We have a youth choir component where we bring in young people. It's called our side-by-side high school chorale, and we'll have the side-by-side high school chorale singing in this performance as well. They come in and join us for one concert period, sit right amongst all the adults. I'm sure it's a huge culture shock for them, but they really enjoy it, and they become a real mainstay, and the regular members of Chorus Niagara are really supportive and loving having them with us. Then we have a scholarship program called the Choral Scholars, who receive money, and they actually are paid to sing with Chorus Niagara. They're young people who have go on to university, and we've actually had some past choral scholars come back and perform as soloists with Chorus Niagara. Even most recently in our performance of the Missa Solemnis, the soprano soloist is none other than Jocelyn Hagen from St. Catherine's. And lastly, we have our apprentice conductor program, actually the associate conductor program, where we engage a young upcoming conductor who is studying and has a degree in conducting or pursuing a degree in conducting to come and work with me and work with the choir and actually have hands-on experience. So I like to say to people, we're not just a choir. We're an arts organization who work very hard to promote the whole aura of choral music beyond just mere participation. And of course, you don't want me to get on my soapbox, Karl, about choral music, but I'm very proud of Chorus Niagara. They really are a going organization with a lot of energy, passion, and commitment to bring the finest they can in choral music making to the Niagara region.
Robert, I want to encourage you. Please get on your soapbox. Talk to us about the power of choral music. Honestly, we've got time. Let us know.
Well, what I always say is that I've spent my years in the choral business, and I go to people and hope that they will give us some. I go to corporations and individuals, and I find most people's reaction to choral music is pretty much based upon some childhood choir they might have felt they had to sing in when they were a child, or something that they might experience on a Sunday and maybe less than artistically satisfying. And I've spent my life hoping people will understand that choral singing at its highest level is commensurate with that of all the other fine arts, with orchestral musicians, with ballet, with opera, with theater. It is one of the fine arts. And I am constantly on about that all the time. And I every once in a while I have converts, and you will see that we're very fortunate with Chorus Niagara that we have some very fine donors who support our programs and sponsor our programs. Chorus Niagara has also been very, very lucky to receive over the years consistent support from both the Ontario Arts Council, the Canada Council, and the City of St. Catharines. So I really feel we have made a slow inroad on the musical life and choral life of the Niagara region to show that choral music is more than just a few people standing around a piano and singing. Now that's important too. That's great. That's important for one's own well-being and health. But I also want to promote the actual art form itself and the music itself. So Chorus Niagara performs the core repertoire. We do our Messiahs. We do our Mozart Requiems, our Missa Solemnises, but I also like to experience the other side of the musical spectrum and explore those things that are different. We've done programs about AIDS, about war, about my mind has gone blank all of a sudden, but now we're doing one on mental health, and we try to pursue several different other angles. The environment. We did a big program in the environment and commissioned a major work for that prior to the pandemic. So we try to explore the entire gamut of choral expression.
What a range! And I'm going to get a soapbox, and I'm going to put your name on it. And you can climb on top of that soapbox anytime
You've
that you
been
want.
very gracious to me. I haven't been called Gig Man before, so I appreciate that.
I do appreciate your time. Last question. I know for a fact that you have to get in your car and head up to a practice this evening, so I won't hold you up too much longer here. But this is a special show. It's happening during Mental Health Week. Can you connect the
That's
work
right.
of Chorus Niagara and the show itself?
Mental Health Week is May 1 to 7, and that is nationwide, and I thought, well, that would be the perfect time that we address this particular topic. So we are on the 6th of May, which is the latter part, the last day before Mental Health Week wraps up, and I think it'll help to bring yet more awareness to the topic, as well as it's timely for everybody, and hopefully when people are very aware of Mental Health Week, they'll want to say, you know what, I want to expose myself a little bit more, explore this, and see it from a different point of view by attending Chorus Niagara's program at Partridge Hall on the 6th.
That's absolutely perfect. Thank you for bringing your stories of choral greatness to the air, Robert Cooper.
Thanks for listening to me. I really appreciate your support, Karl.
All right, Robert Cooper is the conductor and artistic director of Choral Niagara, a huge part of Chorus Niagara presenting Sound Mind. Again, that's coming May 6th to the FirstOntario Performing Arts Centre. Head on down to the box office or give their box office a call. Get some tickets, support some really special work that's being done in an important week in our community.